Okay, today we're going to have a look at Baby You Gotta Change Your Mind by Blind Boy Fuller. A great old blues song. Let's just have a quick demonstration at quite a slow tempo because I'm not fully up to speed myself yet. Go. Something like that anyway. Now I'm fairly certain that that's accurate, but we've got to take into mind the recording quality. Obviously back then is not great. It's not always possible to hear the bass note or to work out exactly what that bass note is, even if you can hear that something has happened. We are capoed on the 5th fret. And let's just have a look at the chords without looking at the right hand for now. By the way, before we get started, another proviso is I'm going to assume that you are familiar with the idea of alternate bass. If not, you want to seek out some help on alternate bass first. It should not be your first alternate bass tune. Okay. Anyway, let's have a look at the left hand. So we're starting with a C chord. Plain vanilla cowboy chord, then an E7, which I'm playing in this slightly expanded version. Normally your straight open E7 would be first finger at the 1st fret, second finger on the G, and second finger 2nd fret on the A string. But we've got this expanded version where I put the pinky on the B string at 3rd fret, and we're going to be using that voicing. Then we've got an expanded A voicing, which anybody familiar with country blues will have seen this chord before. It's fairly famous. So it's like just a plain vanilla open A played in the 1-finger style. And then the pinky is going all the way up to 5th fret. By the way, I'm counting frets from the capo because doing anything else is madness. And that's all there is to it. Okay, we've got an A7 voicing in the same place, so I'm just going to take the 4th finger away, place it with my 2nd finger, 3rd fret of the top E, and then we've got a D7, which is played thumb over with thumb 2nd fret on the bottom E. We can't actually hear that pitch on the record, or if you can, you've got better ears than me, but I'm fairly certain it's going to be there because that gives you your alternate bass on that D7 chord if you've got your thumb over. If you haven't, then you've got to use the A string in kind of this slightly inverted alternate bass, which doesn't work so well. So I'm fairly certain he'll be using that. And then we've got a G7. Which I'm going to play in a fingerstyle version. The only difference between this and you vanilla G7, which I think most students of the guitar will know quite well, is that I don't use the 2nd finger. It's because it's never used if you're using an alternate bass pattern. You're going between the E string and the D string, and so that A string is just muted. You never need it. Okay. That gets us through the verse. Those are the chords used in the verse. We're going back to a C, and then we're into the bridge. So we're going C, C7, plain vanilla C7. You'll have seen this before. Pinky 3rd fret on the G, and then into an F, thumb over. So it's a fingerstyle F, thumb over. For those of you more familiar with the Hendrix style of thumb over F. This is a slightly simplified version. So 1st finger, 1st fret of the B, 2nd finger, 2nd fret of the G, 3rd finger, 3rd fret of the D, and then thumb over. So it's almost like an F major 7 voicing, but the top E is muted by the back of my first finger. Sometimes in country blues or in country alternate bass styles, you do get that open E being used as a melody, but we're not going to be using it here. And then we've got an F sharp diminished, which often you would see kind of in this first position here, played down here, but he moves up to get a real bright chord as punctuation in the bridge here. So my first finger's at 4th fret on the D, my second finger's at 4th fret on the B, my third finger is on 5th fret on the G, and my pinky is at 5th fret on the top A. There's an F sharp diminished, and then as we go through the rest of the end section of the song, it's all the same voicings that we've seen before. So let's have a look at some of the right hand. Now, I've worked out some Blind Boy Fuller previously, so I've got a little bit of a head start on this. And I know one of the things that Blind Boy Fuller does a lot is this idea for an alternate bass tuner on the C chord in the left hand. My alternate bass is going to bounce between the A string and the D string. Yeah, and as a pinch with that low bass, I'm going to be pinching with my second finger on the top E, and then I'm coming down with my first finger on the B, and then the high bass. Now you might want to take a little bit of time just to practice that, because Blind Boy Fuller does it all the time and he's really quick at it. Yeah, so get that up to speed, up to the point at which that's just really natural. But we're not actually holding that C chord for very long. It's only half a bar, and we're immediately changing to our E7, where we're going to pinch from the low E to the B string, where I've got my pinky on the 3rd fret, and then top E, and then the D string, the 7th of the chord, as the high bass. Let's just put those two ideas together. Yeah? Maybe slightly slower. 2, 3, 4. Then we're moving to an A chord, and we're going to pinch high bass to this 5th fret with the pinky, and then immediately to that 3rd fret with the second finger on the top E. So, and then low bass, first finger, high bass. So low, pinch, top E, low bass, top E, high bass. Let me just play that. And you start to hear the rhythm there. And you can see I'm doing all of that with the first finger now in this bar. I tend not to use my second finger unless I actually need to. So if I'm doing a roll, then I'll use the second first as a little roll. But any other melody, I'll just use my first finger unless absolutely necessary to use the second. And I think that's fairly common with alternate bass styles, especially Reverend Gary Davis, well known for only ever using his first finger, and you won't find many alternate bass guitar players who are better than Reverend Gary Davis. So I take that on and I use my first finger as much as possible. Okay, so that gets us through the end of the second bar. So let's just recap what we got so far. Here we go, 3, 4. Then we're going to grab our D7, and we've got another trick that Blind Boy Fuller does a lot is this up strum with the first finger. So we've got 2 of those, and then the high bass on D, and then we're going to do exactly the same pattern but with our G7. So that bar is, and then we're going back into a C. But here the C, we're going to grab the Gina 3rd fret on the top E. We're using that same rhythmic pattern that we saw in the bar on A. So we've got a low bass, we've got a pinch with the high bass, we've got a melody note on the top E, then low bass, melody note, high bass. It's exactly the same rhythm or exactly the same pattern in the right hand as with that bar of A. So that's really useful, that particular pattern, because that crops up in a number of different places. What we have then is a restatement of that first phrase. So, and as we go to the D7, we just hold on it twice this time, and then G7. Now that G7, again, it's playing that same right hand rhythm that we've seen in the bar of A, in that second bar of C, and then this G7. So we've got low bass, pinch with high bass, melody, low bass, melody, high bass. And again, that's those up strums with the finger, so I'm just brushing upwards. You can hear on the record that it gets lots of attack out of that first finger. Clearly, he's got some very well developed calluses on his right hand. Of course, he's playing a resonator as well, which are famous for shredding your fingers. So yeah, he gets a great sound out. So at which point we're going to go into the bridge. So let's just cover everything we've got so far from the very top. 3, 4.